Good evening. Well, Tim tells me 2,000 people have signed up for this conference today, and it's an amazing thing because when I first wrote the book Government 2.0 back in 2005, I think we could have fit all the enthusiasts for that subject on the stage or possibly even on that couch right now. So it's a wonderful thing to see all of you here. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a new book that I have out called If We Can Put a Man on the Moon, Getting Big Things Done in Government by Harvard Business Press, and tie it back to Government 2.0. Now, a lot of people ask me, so why did you name the book that way, If We Can Put a Man on the Moon? But think about it, how many times have you heard that phrase? If we can put a man on the moon, why can't we cure poverty? If we can put a man on the moon, why can't we fix our schools? Or from one of my favorite news sources, The Onion, if we can put a man on the moon, why can't we make killer robot police? Now, I also have I've got a Twitter search going on for the phrase, and unfortunately, the book is not the number one use of the phrase. The most popular use of this phrase is actually something very popular with females. It's if we can put a man on the moon, why can't we put them all there? Now, it didn't start off as a cliche, of course. It started off as a challenge issued by John F. Kennedy in 1961.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
Now, when Kennedy issued the challenge, it was an impossible challenge. But America pulled together, and in 1969, Neil Armstrong planted that flag on the moon. And anyone that was alive at the time can remember just the feeling of pride and exuberance. After all, we'd put a man on the moon, we'd won the World War II, we'd successfully executed the Marshall Plan and the interstate highway system. The question today is, can we execute on our most important challenges? And recent events aren't exactly going to lead to any ticker tape parades. So what we sought out to do was answer this question. What's the difference between the success of an Apollo mission, the success of a successful Government 2.0 initiative, and then one that is kind of stuck in a crisis of execution that is mired in failure? Now, to answer that question, why do some big initiatives succeed and why do some fail, we studied more than 75 major government initiatives since World War II. We looked at everything from the success of the Marshall Plan to the struggles of immigration reform. We looked at wars on poverty, wars on inflation, and real wars in Iraq and Vietnam. We looked at major IT initiatives like Deepwater, and we looked at a lot of other policy initiatives. Now, when we sought out to study all of these initiatives, we said there's no way we can do these ourselves. We didn't have much of a budget. It was just me and my co-author. What we needed was kind of an army of dedicated, thoughtful individuals who understood government but were willing to work for free. The answer soon became clear. We needed grad students. And with the help of more than 70 grad students from our nation's leading schools of public policy, we broke down all these initiatives into their process parts, and we looked at the differences. And what we found was these initiatives, while they're all very different, they all tended to follow a predictable pattern. And we call this the journey to success. Now, there are lots of ways an initiative can end in failure. But to succeed, your initiative needs to do certain things well. You need to have a good idea. You need to have an implementable design. The design needs to win democratic approval, and we called that the Stargate. Any of you watched that science fiction series? Well, we called it the Stargate because the Stargate is a wormhole in space. And in the policy world, the wormhole is essentially as it goes through Congress or the legislature and it moves from the political world to the bureaucratic world. And that chasm between those worlds can create a lot of problems. You need good implementation. The initiative needs to generate results. And then you need to go back and reevaluate that initiative over time. Now, what we also found was that along this whole path of this journey was all sorts of different traps, all sorts of hidden pitfalls that lurk at every stage of this initiative. We found that these hidden pitfalls tended to reoccur again and again within initiatives that weren't successful, with the names like Tolstoy syndrome or the overconfidence trap, Sisyphus trap. Now, we don't have time to go through all of these today. To actually learn more about them, you'll actually have to buy the book, which is available on Amazon. But when you combine that nice process map with all of these traps, the kind of traps that you all face every day, the real journey to success looks a little bit more like this. It's almost like you think of yourself, it's kind of like you're the government version of Indiana Jones, where right when things are going really well and you reach out to grab that golden idol, there's the poison dart that's going to come at you or the boulder that's going to come down. What we tried to do was lay out these traps and how do you overcome those different traps. So what does this mean for Government 2.0? I think it means several things. First of all, understanding what these traps are and understanding the success factors and understanding this journey overall is going to help you to better achieve success in your initiatives. But secondly, and just as importantly, that right now there's a disconnect in many respects between those who are practicing Gov 2.0 and those people who are running our largest programs and departments. And I think Gov 2.0 actually can prove very, very powerful at each stage of this process in helping to ensure success and also bringing the Gov 2.0 enthusiasts closer together with those who are managing our largest programs who are in charge of the mission areas of government. Let me give you a few examples. The biggest trap in terms of the ideation stage is what we call Tolstoy syndrome. That's really confirmation bias. That's being so sure of where you're going that you don't seek out a diversity of views, that you don't reach out to critics. And the key thing to avoiding that trap is basically to open up your initiative to criticism, to open it up from ideas from outside the organization. And that's where Government 2.0 plays a huge role in everything from when you look at the crowdsourcing, things like the TSA Idea Factory, which allows organizations, leaders to reach into the front lines of government through wiki-like mechanisms and get ideas, thousands and thousands of ideas from the front lines. Ideas like policy mashups, Virtual Alabama, which is a mashup of Google Earth and emergency data. Or something like the X Prize, which is now being championed by the administration and OMB, where you're actually paying for results and you're bringing in a whole variety of people, a whole group of people who traditionally aren't part of the system here in Washington. Gov 2.0 can also play a major role in the design stage. The biggest trap here is essentially when we design policy that doesn't actually work in the real world. It looks good on paper maybe, but it's not workable. We found there's a big gap often between the designers and implementers. What Gov 2.0 can do is through things like gaming and prototyping actually work through a lot of those areas before we implement them on a major scale. You're going to hear tomorrow from someone from IDEO, which is the leading organization, I think, in the world, really, at prototyping their products and prototyping concepts. So by the time they actually go to scale with them, that they've worked through all of those problems. Another example is Gov 2.0 can also play a major role when you're launching an initiative. One of the things that you often will find is that there are lots of doubts with big initiatives. You often will find a lot of kind of cultural issues between the headquarters and the field. One of the things that Gov 2.0 does is through things like prediction markets and crowdsourcing, what it does is it brings those doubts out to the surface and brings them up. And a very, very powerful way to incrementally reduce your risk. And I think a key thing here is scenario planning. I was at a workshop earlier today here on online gaming, where it looked at how do we use gaming scenarios and war planning and so forth essentially to work through all the different ways that the initiative might fail to avoid the overconfidence trap and make sure it's successful. So in short, Gov 2.0 can play a major, major role, I believe, in helping us to achieve more successes like the Marshall Plan, like the Apollo mission, and other great successes in American history right now. But it's all about tying this back together with the major mission that our governments have. Thank you very much.